Yeah, we know. I met him one day. Yeah. Ted Hunt was there that day. Yeah, she had. He brought up oh, yeah, he's
All right, well, good evening, everyone. I see 5:30, so we will get started. If you're here for the August 10th, 2023 Columbia City Council meeting, you are at the right place. Before we get to the formal meeting, however, we do have two public hearings that I will read out to see if anyone wishes to be heard at the public hearing portion, or if they'd prefer to wait until the item on the agenda. First public hearing one, public hearing on ordinance number 4471 relating to item 10.1 on the agenda, an ordinance to amend ordinance number 4400, the same being the zoning ordinance of the City of Columbia by rezoning tax map 41, parcel 15, located at Freehand Lane and Cleburne Road, from Neighborhood Character District to General Urban Character District. This is Ward 5. Anyone in the audience wish to be heard on public hearing number one? Anyone on council wish to be heard on public hearing number one? Hearing none, entertain a motion to close public hearing number one. It's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion on that? Hearing none. Mr. Jablonski, take the vote, please.
Mr. Coleman? Aye. Mr. Green?
Aye.
Ms. Hardison? Aye. Mr. Marshall? Mrs. Wiles,
Aye.
Vice Mayor McBroom, Mayor Moulton.
Aye. Public hearing number 1 is now closed. Next item 2, public hearing on ordinance number 4472 relating to item 10.2 on the agenda, an ordinance to amend ordinance 4400, the same being the zoning ordinance of the city of Columbia, Tennessee, by rezoning tax map 90 parcel 7.08 located off River Road from planned unit development mixed use to urban center character district. This is Ward 3. Anyone in the audience wish to be heard on public hearing number 2? Seeing none, anyone on council wish to be heard on public hearing number 2? Hearing none, entertain a motion to close public hearing number 2.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, Mr. Jablonski.
Mr. Coleman. Aye. Mr. Green.
Aye.
Ms. Hardison.
Aye.
Mrs. Wiles,
Aye.
Vice Mayor McBroom, Mayor Moulton.
Aye. Public hearing number 2 is now closed. Now, we will move into our regular meeting. Once again, those of you in attendance tonight and those of you who may be watching on our live stream, we say welcome to the Columbia City Council August 10th, 2023 meeting. We're glad that you're here, and we look forward to a good, productive meeting this evening. We will begin with item 1 on the agenda for call to order and roll call. Mr. Jablonski.
Mr. Coleman. Here. Mr. Green.
Here.
Ms. Hardison.
Here.
Mr. Marshall. Mrs. Wiles,
Here.
Vice Mayor McBroom. Here. Mayor Moulton.
Here. That item, we now move on to item 2, invocation by Dr. Marty Shadoan of First Baptist Church. I hope I pronounced the name correctly. If not, please do correct me. And as he's approaching the podium for tonight's invocation, I would invite all of you to please stand as you are able for the invocation and then remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance, which will be led tonight by Mr. Thad Jablonski.
Let us pray. Lord God, we thank you for this opportunity to come together as a city in order to conduct business. I pray this evening for the council members and the mayor in front of me that you will give them wisdom and guidance, that the decisions that they make will make a more stable community, a community where people's lives will flourish. I pray, Lord, if there's any contention, that it will be dealt with in a very even Christ-like manner, so that there is stability in this meeting and around the whole community. God, thank you for your wisdom you give us in your word to guide our thinking, to guide our lives. And I pray for these council members that even if they're not yours, if they're not Christians, Lord, that you're still a part of this process so that we might live that quiet and peaceable life that your word teaches us to live. Lord, I pray all these things tonight in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Please face the flag. Pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please be seated. And thank you for that invocation. A community where people's lives will flourish. Very well said. Thank you. That is certainly the goal. Moving on now to approval of tonight's agenda, item 4.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion on that item? Hearing none, we will now take the vote, which will now transition to electronic voting. All right, that item is approved. There being no items under presentation, we'll now move to organizational business. Item 6.1, approve the minutes of the July 13, 2023 City Council regular meeting.
Move for approval.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion on that item? Hearing none, we'll call the vote. That item is approved. We'll move now on to the consent agenda, section 7. These items are deemed non-controversial, requiring no individual debate or discussion. We will read this collectively and vote on them collectively, barring a member of council wish to take one out of the consent agenda. So we'll begin now with item 7.1, approve disbursements for the month of June 2023 in the amount of $8,218,022.70. Item 7.2, approve and authorize the disposal of surplus equipment. Item 7.3, approve payment to Murray County to provide funding for the Murray County City of Columbia Animal Services Facility for the fourth quarter fiscal year 2023 in the amount of $50,000. Item 7.4, approve the sole source use of United Waste haulers for disposal of garbage and bulky items with an estimated cost of $220,000. Item 7.5, approve the purchase of a 2023 automated side load garbage truck using Sourcewell contract in the amount of $378,091.60. Item 7.6, approve and authorize the mayor to sign a contract between the City of Columbia and the State of Tennessee Department of Safety and Homeland Security for participation in the Tennessee Advanced Communications Network. Item 7.7, approve and authorize the mayor to sign a contract between the City of Columbia and Music City Publications in the amount of $8,500 for advertising in Murray County Living and Williamson County Living magazines for 5 issues. Item 7.8, approve and authorize the mayor to sign a contract between the City of Columbia and STR in the amount of $2,520 for an annual license that provides monthly lodging occupancy data reports. Item 7.9, approve and authorize the mayor to sign an agreement between the City of Columbia and Pilgrimage Events in the amount of $3,000 for a marketing sponsorship to promote Visit Columbia. Item 7.10, approve and authorize the mayor to sign the amended lease agreement between the City of Columbia and Murray County for the Polksett Preservation Park. Item 7.11, approve.
Mayor, you mind if I comment just for a second on that?
Sure.
Just want to let council know that the County Administrative Committee heard this and voted unanimously to recommend this for approval to the full County Commission on August 20th. So, yes,
All
sir.
right. Thank you for that update.
Yes, sir.
Item 7.11, approve and authorize the mayor to sign the software licensing agreement with S-Skill in the amount of $5,000 to provide valid and reliable testing for pre-employment and skills gap testing. And item 7.12, approve a reimbursement in the amount of $200,000 to Village at Carter Station Development, LLC, for Village at Carter Station subdivision in the City of Columbia, Tennessee, Ward 5. That is your consent agenda, items 7.1 through 7.12.
Move for approval.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion on the consent agenda? Hearing none, we will call the vote. All right, the consent agenda is approved. If I'm reading that correctly, at least I am turning 40 this month, so I don't know if that's a joke that we're going to have the screen small to test my eyesight here or what, but I do see a green light, which I believe means that it's approved. There being no items under Section 8 Administration, we will now move to Section 9 Resolutions. Item 9.1, Resolution 2351, Tax Corrections.
Move for approval.
Been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion on that item? Hearing none, we'll take the vote. That item is approved. Next item, 9.2, Resolution 2352, a resolution to authorize the City of Columbia to apply for the 2023 Tourism Enhancement Grant through the Tennessee Department of Tourist Development, accept the grant award not to exceed $100,000, and authorize the mayor to execute documents related to accepting and administering the grant project.
Move for approval.
Second.
Been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion on item 9.2? Hearing none, we'll take the vote. That item is approved. Next item, 9.3, Resolution 2353, a resolution to authorize the City of Columbia to apply for the State of Tennessee Department of Economic and Community Development Downtown Improvement Grant Program in the amount not to exceed $400,000.
Move for approval. Second.
Been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion on that item? Hearing none, we'll take the vote. That item is approved. Next item, 9.4, Resolution 2354, a resolution authorizing the City of Columbia to apply for the 2024 Blue Cross Healthy Places Grant and authorize the mayor to execute documents related to accepting and administering the grant project. Mr. City Manager.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I'd like to ask Mike Reagan to come forward and take a moment and explain this addition from last week's agenda for council consideration.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council, I'd like to apologize for this going on late, but this grant was released actually after our deadline, so we wanted to get this on this month so we could apply, and the deadline falls at the end of the month. We're requesting $850,000 from this grant. It'll go to build a splash pad at Fairview Park, which is a strategic planning goal, and roughly it'll be 16 features. We'll meet what the council set forth at a strategic planning. It'll match up with pretty much any community our size. So it's a really nice program. And it's always a good chance. It's a highly competitive grant. They give 5 or 6 a year. So we've asked the development district step forward and assist us with that process. And we will turn in an excellent application for this. with your permission.
Any questions for Mr. Reagan? Mac, did we fund something towards this in this last budget cycle? Just like some initial seed money for some design and development phase. Is that right?
Yes, we paid for the design of the splash pad last year.
Okay.
And we have $350,000 budgeted for this year. But with the dramatic increase in splash pads, we thought it would be a good idea to try to assist and gain monies where we could outside of our taxpayer funding.
So this would basically allow the project to be fully funded when you consider what's been budgeted previously in addition
Yes, sir.
to the grant. Okay.
And it would, not only that, it allow us to increase and personalize the grant, such as maybe we want to add something with the duck on the Duck River or something like that. Like I say, we'll have 16 features from ground to high water features, and roughly you're looking at about a 40-year life expectancy of this. So although it seems like a lot of money, when you figure out per year, it makes it much more at ease, I guess you could say, with it.
Well, I'd certainly think that we have an obligation and probably also expectation to make sure that the project that we put in is one that everybody can be proud of. And I know that with you sort of leading the charge in that regard, that'll certainly happen. And it sounds like, if nothing else, this grant will allow us to just further enhance the project as a whole.
Absolutely.
All right. Any other questions for Mr. Reagan? Hearing none. Thank you, as always, Mac, for that good presentation. So we're back on item 9.4.
For approval? Second.
Moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll take the vote. That item is approved. We'll now go to section 10, ordinances. Second consideration of ordinance number 4471, an ordinance to amend ordinance 4400, the same being the zoning ordinance of the city of Columbia, Tennessee, by rezoning tax map 41, parcel 15, located off Freehand Lane and Cleburne Road, from neighborhood character district to general urban character district, Ward 5. I believe we did have one individual that signed up on this, if I'm correct, Ms. Bermudez. Jake Woolver. Mr. Woolver?
No comment. What's your question?
All right. Well, let the record reflect you were here and we gave you the opportunity. It's good to see you as always, Mr. Woolver. All right, we're back on item 10.1. No other speakers that have signed up to speak on item 10.1.
Move for approval.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion on item 10.1? Hearing none, we'll call the vote. All right, that item is approved. Next item is 10.2. Second consideration of ordinance 4472, an ordinance to amend ordinance 4400, the same being the zoning ordinance of Columbia, Tennessee, by rezoning tax map 90, parcel 7.08, located off River Road, from planned unit development mixed use to urban center character district. This is Ward 3. All right, the Vice Mayor has indicated that he will be abstaining from item 10.2. We do not have any individual speakers who have signed up to speak on this item, so we're on the item 10.2.
Move for approval.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll take the vote. That item is approved. Item 10.2. Next item, 10.3, first consideration, ordinance 4473, an ordinance to amend ordinance 4400, the same being the zoning ordinance of the city of Columbia, by rezoning 1205 East End Street, located at tax map 99, from parcel 59.04, neighborhood large lot character district, to general urban character district, and established September 14th, 2023 as the date of public hearing. This is also Ward 3. I do have one individual who signed up to speak on this item, Mr. Larry Owen. Mr. Owen? All right, we're glad to have you here as well. Anyone wish to be, so there's no other speakers on this item at 10.3, so we're back on item 10.3.
Move for approval.
Been moved,
Second.
properly Seconded.
Ask Paul,
Sure. So it's been moved and properly seconded, so we can still be back on discussion. So we have a question, Mr. City Manager.
Yes, Paul's not with us this evening, but Kevin, if you could come forward.
come on down, Kevin.
Yes, sir.
On that particular lot would be 4 or 3 homes.
They could potentially do 4. It's up to the applicant how they come forward with a preliminary plat.
Okay, and just to clarify with the parking, would it be behind the resident or you're not sure on that?
They can do parking in what we call the third layer, so 20 feet back from the facade or in a driveway.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right. So we're back on that item for purposes of discussion. There having already been a motion and a second. Any further discussion on item 10.3? Hearing none, we'll call the vote. That item is approved. Next item under Section 10 ordinances is item 10.4, first consideration of ordinance number 4475, an ordinance to amend ordinance 4400, the same being the zoning ordinance of the city of Columbia, Tennessee, by rezoning multiple properties within the Carriage Hills subdivision located off Carters Creek Pike from neighborhood character district to neighborhood large lot character district and established September 14th, 2023 is the date of public hearing. This is Ward 5, and we do have several individuals who've signed up to speak this evening. I think several individuals in the audience as well who are here on this item. And I should just point out that if you're here, we want to say a special welcome, but also say congratulations in a sense, because I promise the meetings do not always run this quickly and efficiently. And so you happen to be on a agenda item, our agenda docket, where we had a very quick meeting. So congratulations. And now we'll look forward to hearing from some of the speakers this evening. So first up, we have Kathy Dew.
It's Doe, but that's fine.
You know, I'll just stop now.
Okay.
But thank you for correcting me and letting me know that,
You're
Ms.
welcome.
Doe. And you'll have 3 minutes if you'll just give us your name and your address.
Okay.
Thank you.
My name is Kathy Doe. I live at 1112 Dover Drive here in Columbia. I've been in Carriage Hills for 32 years. All we want is for our larger home and larger lot properties to have the appropriate CD3L zoning classification of a larger lot character area that reflects the size lots and homes that exist in Carriage Hill. We just want to protect our homes, our properties, and our property value. This impacts no other than our subdivision, nobody else but our subdivision. So that's what we're wanting. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next on the agenda, Ms. Faye Hazing. Mr. Hazen? Mr. Hazen? Would you like to speak, Mr. Hazen? No, I don't want to speak. Okay. Thank you for being here. Next up is Catherine York. Ms. York, you'll come to the podium, identify yourself, give us your address, and you'll have the floor for 3 minutes.
Feel short. Hi, I'm Catherine York, and I live at 106 Concord Drive. And my husband and I, we've lived there. We've lived there for 4 years. We moved to town because we own 3 businesses, 3 retail shops here in the downtown on the square. I'm here tonight on behalf of the 90 homeowners in our neighborhood whose homes and who they own the homes and live in the neighborhood and have signed the petition for the CD3L rezoning. I've spoken with a few of you on this, and I have actually enjoyed getting to know some of you better and having just like open, candid conversations about it. I've understood some of the concerns that I've heard, and I just wanted to take a moment and tell you a little bit about my personal feedback on those. I understand there's been discussion on a potential liability in passing this rezoning based on signatures that are not on the petition. This petition, like any other petition, is just a group of people appealing the same case. So therefore, the absence of one or any number of signatures does not mean an I just went blank on that one, opposition to the rezoning ordinance. Every property owner is aware of the petition, has had the same opportunity to speak up either for or against the rezoning. The city has followed every single step in communicating with us, with the property owners, with posting the signs in the neighborhood, and even with sending the certified letters. There's been no as of 3:30 this afternoon, there's been no documented opposition brought to the city on behalf of this rezoning. I'd also like to mention one of the other concerns that was brought up to me in my conversations, you all, was maybe that passing this could set a precedent for future neighborhoods to also make the same request. I ask you to make a decision based on our specific request in just our neighborhood. There is always a potential for anything, any liability or future of that. I would hope that each would be looked at on a case-by-case instance, and that that's what we ask for. If you would just look at that. I ask that you make the decision based on the request of the 90 homeowners who've chosen to speak out and protect the future of their property and the value of that. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Ms. York. Next up, Tina Green. Welcome, Ms. Green. If you'll identify yourself, you'll have the floor for 3 minutes.
Hi, I'm Tina Green. I live at 103 Lennox Drive, and I've been in Carriage Hills subdivision for 28 years in my home. And I would like to just mention that it was documented in the staff report that it can be determined that our proposed rezoning furthers our purposes and objectives of zoning. So I would like to mention 5 items on that, and these are our 5 purposes and objectives. Number 1, character and stability. To protect the character and maintain the stability of our residential area, our neighborhood. Number 2, our purpose and objective is to prohibit incompatible character and uses to our subdivision, to prohibit uses or structures which are incompatible with the character of our development or the permitted uses within our specified zoning district. Number 3, restructuring non-complying changes to our area, to restrict such additions to and alterations or remodeling of existing buildings or structures on lots that would not be comparable with single-family detached homes or not compliant with restrictions and limitations imposed. Number 4, our purpose and objective of rezoning is to conserve our value. We want to conserve the taxable value of our homes and our property. Number 5 is nonconformities. We want to eliminate those uses of land and structures which do not conform to the standards of the district in which we are located and which would affect the taxable value of our properties. So I would like you to consider our recommendations on this rezoning. Thank you.
Thank you for your presence and your comments tonight. And the last individual who signed up to speak on this item is Sue Stevenson. Ms. Stevenson, come on up. You know the drill. You'll have the floor for 3 minutes. Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of the council. There are 3 criteria that the City Council is to look at when making this decision. The first is whether or not what we're asking for complies with the comprehensive plan. It's already been established that it does. Secondly, that the legal purposes for which the zoning exists as set forth in Section 1.5 are not contravened, meaning that our rezoning request is not in violation of any prohibition, any order, or any law. It's been reviewed by your legal counsel. It is perfectly legal. It complies with the comprehensive plan. It complies with the zoning ordinance, and it's not prohibited in the zoning ordinance in any way. The last of the criteria is to consider whether there is any adverse effects upon the adjoining property owners. In the staff report, the city planner documented that there are no known adverse effects upon adjoining property owners. The City of Columbia notified every adjoining property owner of our proposed rezoning by certified letter. Some of them called the city planner to ask questions, and that was it. Not one of them communicated any objection. Not one of them cited any concern. Not one of them voiced any perceived negative impact or adverse effect upon their properties. If any of them were to voice an objection afterwards, you have that certified letter to show that they were well informed of the proposed rezoning and given multiple opportunities to contact the city to communicate any concerns or complaints. The property owners surrounding our subject property, the adjoining properties, were all contacted by us directly and advised of our request to rezone our properties. 6 of us here answered their questions and spoke with them face to face with every single adjoining property owner surrounding Carriage Hills. Potential concerns from anyone in the city, particularly the adjoining properties and even the subject property owners, is exactly why you are mandated by law and your zoning ordinance to display, present, and conduct public notice in 4 ways. That's your public postings, the signs that have to be posted, the public notices that have to be published in the paper, the public hearing that has to be conducted at City Hall, and the certified letters that have to be sent out to everyone. And this also, all of those must be done in advance. So there's been ample opportunity for anyone to voice any kind of concerns or objections. I also attached 3 adjoining property owners' letters that signed. There are 5 adjoining property owners, and 3 of them were willing to sign that they had no concerns and no objections to what we were doing. So I've attached those for you as well. The last 2 adjoining property owners stated that they had received the certified letter and that they had no objections or concerns, but they did not want to sign anything or have to come to City Hall. There are some people that just say, I don't want to get involved in politics, I don't want to get involved in it, I don't want to sign anything. You know, I support you, I don't have any problem with it, but I don't want to sign anything. One of them said to us, I don't even know why you're here. This is your property, not mine. And I was just trying to explain why we were trying to get the additional documentation. So, in the end, through all the public notification, everyone's been apprised of what we proposed here. And the 2 remaining property owners, everyone got the certified letters. So I don't see that there's any potential for liability. We've got 93 out of 95 people have signed something. 95 people out of 95 people have said that they don't have an issue with this and they don't object to it. If they were going to object to it, you would have heard from them through their certified letter.
All right.
I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Stevenson. I gave you a little extra time because I know that there are other individuals in the audience who I think are here also on this issue, but who did not choose to speak. So I just wanted to give you a little bit extra time in that regard. So thank you. And if we have any questions for you, we'll call you back up.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions on item 10.4? I think maybe I have a question for, I guess, Mr. McCarthy. Would that be right, Mr. Massey?
Kevin, if you could come forward, please.
Yes, sir.
So the letters, the certified letters that were referenced, I mean, we know that those were sent out and we have documentation of that. Is that right?
Yes, sir. For any rezoning, we send certified letters to the property owners of every adjacent parcel.
So that was the next question: is who gets that letter?
So in this case, a large number of people, because there's 52 subject properties, since they are all neighbors to each other, all the applicants got certified letters, and then the remaining properties that are adjacent to them also got certified letters. In addition to that, we posted a sign at the entrance to the Carriage Hills neighborhood.
Okay. And then I know I've had some conversations late this afternoon with Robert Rogers, who represents the Parks family, and he had given some indication that perhaps he was going to communicate something to you. Have you received something from Mr. Rogers on behalf of the Parks?
Yes, sir. I have. At 5:20, as I was getting up from my desk to walk downstairs, I received an email from him indicating that he does not want anything to happen to his property, which is not before you. He's not an applicant. And provided there's no adverse impact on his property, he supports his neighboring property's request for rezoning.
So in speaking with him, I think that was maybe his biggest question or concern as to why he had not yet really been involved here, because he wasn't certain what would happen to his properties if this was approved. And so I think I know the answer, but can you say that out loud so we can all make sure we're sure of that?
Yes, sir. So his property, or the properties his family controls right now, the 4 lots that are within Carriage Hills are zone CD3. The property to the north, the large property north, is zone CD3. The property to the south along Nashville Highway is zone CD2. The zoning of those properties will remain the same. It doesn't change. It's not affected by these 52 other lots.
So if we're looking at the zoning map, his portion to the north would remain the CD3, so it would remain green, essentially, or the lime green.
Yes, sir.
And then his property to the south along Nashville Highway and around would remain the CD2.
Yes, sir. That's correct.
Do you have any comment on this as a planner? I know this was something that was pointed out in the staff comments. It's a little bit of an unusual request, which I think, frankly, has been one of the reasons that there's been some struggle just in trying to figure it out. But I'd just be interested in your professional opinion as a planner, what your comments, if any, are.
Yes, sir. As we said at Planning Commission, since this neighborhood is already built out, it doesn't really change anything for us other than the color on the map. Most all the lots, except for the ones on the cul-de-sac, conform to the CD3L standard. And, they are already built out. It won't change much. It is, that there would be 4 lots that don't have the same zoning as the adjacent properties in the subdivision is unusual. So an unusual request, but nothing that is really alarming or really changes much in the subdivision, since you have 100-foot wide lots with single-family detached homes, and that's what the zoning would permit in either case.
And then if it did get rezoned, there would only be one nonconformity, and that would be relative to the frontage around the cul-de-sacs.
Yes, sir. So the width of the lots would be nonconforming, but of course, if one of those houses were lost in a fire or some other catastrophe, they would have a right to rebuild a single-family home, provided they can meet the setbacks.
All right. Vice Mayor?
We could have somebody a little more, been here a little longer. What was because I know, if I remember, the zoning went what was the original zoning of the division? Was RS?
That's what I've been told, yes, sir.
Everybody heard about that? So, the S.
Yes, sir. The S and the RS in the previous zoning was single family only. And that is the distinction between CD3 and CD3L, is that CD3 on a lot with at least 100 feet of frontage permits a duplex in some circumstances. Yes, sir.
In other words, under the ordinance change, they went from a zoning that did not allow duplexes to a zoning that does now currently allow duplexes.
Well, the previous ordinance, so when the RS15 went away, this neighborhood became R10, and that would, in a circumstance under the previous ordinance where you had 150% of the required lot area, you could build a duplex. Now, in the new ordinance under CD3, if you have 100 feet of frontage, you can build a duplex. There's some other limitations, but that's the gist.
The original one was RS.
I do not know that for sure, but that's what I've been told.
All right, Mr. Coleman.
Thank you, Mayor. So my question for you, Mr. Carruthers, plays off of what Mr. McBroom just said, is if, and this may be difficult since you hadn't been here prior, but if we were to go back and translate RS15 to our current new zoning, would that have translated to 3L more accurately than 3? CD3?
Probably also would be CD3.
Still would have been CD3?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
See, a lot of our residential subdivisions are CD3. It's 65-foot wide lot, generally a single-family home, and some rare circumstances permits a duplex.
Okay.
Any other questions? Councilmember Hardison.
Yes, if you can answer this. Do we foresee, I understand we're taking this case by case, but do we foresee it being any issue if we are to get any other neighborhoods that want to do the same thing?
Well, it certainly complicates the zoning map, but, any property owner has a right to request a rezoning, and as long as it's consistent with the comprehensive plan, we'll bring it to Planning Commission and Council.
Thank you.
Mr. City Attorney?
If you're asking if you're creating a precedent, you are creating a precedent if that's the question you're asking, yes.
Anyone else have any questions? I guess I have a question for the city attorney, and I'll preface my question with a couple comments because I have had some conversations over the last 24 hours with some folks who have sort of provided a little bit of a fresh perspective on it because, as we know, this was in Planning Commission, and it didn't really make a whole lot of sense then, and I don't know that maybe I just wasn't hearing it the way it needed to be said or what. I'm sure it was on me, but either way, I've evolved a little bit in that thought process based on those conversations. And then one was because of the one later this afternoon with the Parks family representative. And the concern that I think most of us shared on this during study session was just from a legal perspective. I mean, it is unusual, but we've heard our planner tell us that while it's unusual, it's not necessarily something that's disallowed or illegal from a zoning perspective. But we were concerned about the legal liability, Mr. Tischer, from those property owners that were not joining in on the request. And now we learn that what represents, I guess, the remaining property owners who we've heard nothing from would be the Parks family at this point. And they have said, we're okay with it as long as it doesn't change our zoning classification. And it seems like if there's anything that's clear, we know that that is actually accurate, that their zoning classification regarding their properties would not change. And so if that's the case, I'm struggling to think of or come up with any other potential legal liabilities that we would be subjecting ourselves to if we're not even changing their zoning in this process, regardless of whether or not they were involved or not, because it seems like a far-fetched hypothetical to be able to say that they were somehow prejudiced if their zoning wasn't changed in the first place.
They're not prejudiced at all because their zoning is not impacted in any form or fashion. They remain zoned as they're currently zoned. I think the question that was asked last week was the future property owners that may buy one of these tracts. Are we doing anything that could prejudice them and cause us any liability to them?
Well, but
I don't see any way that we could have any liability to them if their predecessor in title has signed this application. So I don't see any liability to us.
yeah, and I was actually never looking at it from that perspective because I actually think there's less of a chance that there's legal liability in that case than in the Parks family case. Okay, so bottom line, Mr. Tischer, is you do not, as a result of the fact that we have documented notice that's been provided and support that has been received and a lack of opposition that has been received and otherwise in our record, that there are no legal liabilities that could be articulated at this point.
I don't see a liability problem, no.
Okay.
I do see creating the precedential effect that Councilwoman Hardison raised.
And I do think, to Councilwoman Hardison's point, I think that is a concern for sure. My hunch is, though, is that it's probably not likely to be something that just starts a slippery slope because we've seen, I mean, how unusual this is in the first place. I mean, I don't know how many times this has come up in, I guess.
This is my first time.
So, okay, I'm not trying to age anybody, but if this is your first time.
I haven't seen it either.
Okay, so I just don't know that I have a whole lot of fear that it creates a precedent that is going to open the floodgates to these things coming in, even if it does create a precedent. And if it does, obviously at that time we have the ability to stop that and otherwise not punish these folks for just happening to be the first ones to do this. So I will say this: I'm going to make a motion to approve this item on first consideration. that has now been properly seconded. I do want to just also say now, for purposes of discussion, that if it passes tonight, as you probably know, I'm sure Ms. Stevenson has told you, it does require 2 considerations. And so I'm going to continue to try to educate myself on this topic over the next 30 days. Fortunately, the last education that I've had over 24 hours on this has helped me evolve on it. So I suspect it'll continue in that trajectory. But the point is, I just want you to know, I want to continue to have conversations on this. And, if something changes differently or we hear something differently, then we'll talk about that next month. So it's been moved. It's been properly seconded. Any further discussion on that item? Councilmember Coleman.
I just want to add to the precedent conversation is that if things like this coming up, I think it's pretty impressive that Ms. Stevenson was able to get this many people all on the same page for something. If this many people are on the same page for something, it's important, I think, that we as council hear it out thoroughly, which is what I think we have done. So I just wanted to mention that on the precedent conversation.
I just had one thing. When I go, I've talked to a lot of people here, and I've enjoyed my conversation. I didn't offend anybody. I don't mean to do that. But I'm kind of blunt, as y'all know. But it was originally RS-50. That does not allow to. Why? I've kind of educated myself. The lots weren't supposed to have to. And that's why I've kind of weighted my stance on it.
All right. Any other discussion on that? Hearing none, we will call the vote. All right. That item is approved on a vote of 4-2. All right. That item is approved on first consideration. We will be back here on second consideration for the September agenda, and we will look forward to seeing those of you for that meeting as well. We now move into other business. Any other business for the good of council? Any member wish to be heard? Councilmember Hardison.
To go back to the potential splash pad, do we have a way of notifying the public that this change is going to occur?
Mac, if you want to come forward and address that.
Yes, ma'am. I'll be doing a public input meeting for the application process. It'll take place probably in about 2 weeks. We'll set up a date and we'll advertise it on all of our social media and everything. And we'll have a public input meeting at the Dr. Krista Martin Community Center for that.
Thank you.
All right. Any other member of council wish to be heard? Hearing no one else, before we call the vote, I'll just point out that over the last 2 weeks, the start of school has begun in Murray County and across Columbia. So we just want to wish a very good school year to all the schools in Murray County, and particularly those in Columbia, the teachers, staff, faculty, students, and yes, even the parents as well. So thanks again for everyone being here this evening, and we will now take a motion to adjourn.
Adjourn into executive session.
We will adjourn into executive session. I'll make that motion. It's been properly seconded. We'll take the vote on that. All right, it passed.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Good seeing you. Mary, how you doing? The ugly one. You can go home. Go home.
No, Have you talked to Wanda today? You should be here tomorrow. Yeah. Probably talk to her.
Give me a thumbs up.
Okay. I'm gone unless you need anything. Sure. See, Chief.
But he gave me a thumbs up.
we're gonna hire at least one. Do you wanna try?
Yeah, because they'll have to come out and adjourn the meeting and then just go through this round.
Here yelling, don't go back. Yeah, see you tomorrow. Need anything? No, sir, thank
Did are you guys civilian? Yes. Cheese, they shouldn't be tickled. I don't know what it does exactly.
You're gonna tell her to hang tight too?
Yeah, we'll both hang out.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, just, and I'll look at it too, because I think me and you kind of, went through it together. So I'll kind of look at it too, make sure that it's obvious. Even just wants MIS stuff too. Y'all did that. And all that, so. That'll work. I'll forward it to you so you can check it out.
All right.
But we probably won't send anything back until after Chief gets back, so.
All right, that'll work.
Yeah, give me some time.
That'd be perfect. Yeah, that'd be better.
We still on YouTube right now?
I don't know, you're fine. I'm not doing it yet. That's really the thought of. Okay, I wasn't sure.
Yeah, go ahead.